Thank you for joining us today. So, before we begin, please allow me to give a brief introduction about FitBudd for those who might be new here. FitBudd helps you grow your fitness business with the power of your own branded app. We also give a dedicated and customizable website on your own domain. And beyond the usual day-to-day operation, our platform is the only tool you'll ever need to run your fitness business and build a robust digital brand. We also offer a 30-day free trial, so you can schedule your free demo with our expert using the link that we just shared in the chat. Moving on, I'm thrilled to introduce our host, Angie Watt. With 28 years of experience in the fitness industry, Angie Watt is the founder of Angie Fit Fix, specializing in strength training and social media marketing. Her expertise has garnered her impressive following of 573,000 on Instagram, making her a leading figure in fitness community. Without further delay, let's welcome Angie to the virtual stage and start our webinar. Over to you, Angie.
Thank you so much. Well, this is so fun for me. I'm excited to chat about social media and Instagram and specifically Instagram. So just to give a little bit more background of kind of where I started from and why I, am doing what I'm doing now. As she said, I've been teaching for over 28 years now, and I've taught everything from cycle to Pilates to strength training to HIIT classes, just a little bit of everything, even dance. That's kind of where I really started. But after teaching for several big companies and big gyms, which I actually do still teach live classes as well, but after teaching for long enough, I had one of the gyms that I worked for at the time encouraged me to begin an Instagram page to give people kind of an idea as to what we offered at the gym and what we offered in our classes. And so the guidelines I was given was, hey, please start a page. We would love to be able to broadcast some of the details of our classes and have you share more. And of course, this was all for free, but I was fine to do that. And in turn, this company I worked for wanted to help me grow my Instagram at the same time. They said they were going to teach me different ways to do that. Well, shortly after I started posting on this social media on Instagram for them, I realized, this is kind of a limited audience. If we're pretty much just posting for people that live in my area that can go to my gym, that's a pretty small audience, which was okay. But I also realized at the time that this isn't going to necessarily help me or, further my career, which I was fine to do plenty just on the side for them for, not the extra pay, but just because I really did love the company I was working for at the time. So, and I still do, by the way. But anyway, I just felt like, okay, this is something that I've kind of wanted to do on my own. Maybe I can, take this in a little bit different direction, try and reach a slightly broader audience. So I stopped doing posts just for that specific gym and just started kind of playing around with different options and seeing what other people in my niche were doing at the time. Just when I say niche, it was pretty broad at the time, just pretty much not even just home fitness, but just fitness in general, fitness for women. And so I started playing around with a few different ideas and posting and doing reels. That was right when reels was brand new. This was just couple years ago, really about 2.5 years ago. And I just remember coming up with a reel that wasn't anything fantastic. It was, I think it was just a bicep reel, like 3 or 4 different bicep exercises. And I posted it one night, just not, putting a whole lot of time or effort into the editing, made some points in the caption, but didn't put a ton of effort into it. And I woke up the next morning to, I don't know, I want to say like 5,000 more followers. It was ridiculous. It was crazy. And I've never seen anything since then on my page, quite like that anyway. But I realized, oh, I might be onto something here. And so from that point, I just started posting pretty consistently. I believe it was probably about 5 times a week. So I would just post like Monday through Friday, Let's, see what we can do here. And I had always had in the back of my mind that I wanted to do something on my own. And this started giving me some ideas on how to take things in the right direction, and do a little bit more specific one-on-one training, but at the same be able to reach a broader audience. So we'll go on to the next slide. So today I just wanted to talk with you guys a little bit about how what has worked for me, what hasn't worked for me, some of the guidelines I've used when I go to create content, and some of the strategies that I've used. But before I feel like I do need to say, before I really get into any specifics, I don't know if anyone else has found this lately, but Instagram has been really slow, really difficult lately for a large amount of people. I know that that everyone's always blaming the algorithm for one thing or another, right? But right now, I have seen, at least in my niche and a lot of the other home fitness accounts that I chat back and forth with, we've all been a little bit frustrated with the way things are going. And in some ways, I do look at that as not a horrible thing, though. I think that especially though it's great for people that are just up and coming, and maybe just starting their own accounts, starting their own businesses. I think it's a great opportunity to come in fresh with your own fresh ideas, and you'll still, the growth may not be crazy big right at first, but that's okay too. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But I don't think that these shifts in the algorithm are always the worst thing. It can be a little bit frustrating when you've been used to growing pretty steadily for a while and then feel like everything has kind of come to a halt. At least that's what I have felt lately. And again, we'll talk about more details about that lately, but I do think that it can be, or we'll talk about more details about that later, but I do think it can be a good thing that when the algorithm does shift things over a little bit, that it gives us all an opportunity to kind of stand out and find what works best for us. All right, so crafting, let's chat really quickly. Of course, social media is a big deal because we are able to reach a really broad audience. As I was just explaining before, when I first started posting for the gym that I was working for, it was a very small audience. It was pretty much everybody that lived in my area that would go to this gym, even though potentially it could have reached a lot more. It really wasn't, because anyone else, my best friend that lives in California could look at my page and say, oh, that's nice, but how can I relate with that? The classes you're offering at your gym, I don't have that at my gym here. So again, when I started opening up just a little bit to, hey, these are home workouts, these are things that you can do with just a few sets of dumbbells, that's when things really started to turn for me, and that's where I've launched my business from. So yeah, again, so we'll talk a little bit about creating engaging content today, how to target the right audience, how to build those connections so that those people that are sending you DMs and maybe commenting on your posts, hopefully will stick around long enough to want to join your program and go, join your business. We'll talk a little bit about the analytics. I won't spend a lot of time on that because I will be honest, I don't spend a ton of time analyzing my own analytics, and I'll kind of get into why I don't in a few minutes. And then again, how to nurture those leads and how to convert followers into paying clients. All right, let's go ahead and move to the next slide. All right, so as I mentioned before, we have this wonderful tool. And again, some of you may not even be on Instagram, but you might be using other social media platforms to grow your business, and that's amazing. A lot of these same concepts will apply. But I do think that Instagram is probably one of the better platforms as far as growth goes, at least from what I've experienced. I did talk with a business consultant probably about a year and a half ago about, hey, so I've just started growing on Instagram. Should I consider moving over to TikTok or spending more time on YouTube or whatever? And he said no. He said no. And I'm sure there's a lot of different opinions on that. But I think beyond the fact that I only have so much bandwidth to give to one platform and still handle my personal life and still handle a growing business, his advice, this business coach's advice, was just stick with what seems to be working best for you. It can get a little confusing. It can muddy the waters, so to speak, just a little if you're dabbling in a bunch of different social media platforms. That's not to say that we shouldn't experiment from time to time, because again, as I mentioned before, with Instagram being, fluctuating and the algorithm being a little bit fickle right now, it might be a great time to kind of play around with some other platforms. But for today's purposes, I'll just share with you what seems to have worked with me with Instagram. So again, over 4 billion people worldwide use social media. Fitness is a popular, relatable topic with high engagement rates. And I will say, I think that one of the things that I have found for my own account is one of the things I love most about sharing about fitness is obviously it can reach to anybody. You don't have to speak the same language as me to be able to appreciate the workout that I'm sharing. We can all relate with that. But along those lines, I have always tried to really keep a very positive approach to my page. I have personally followed plenty of other accounts in fitness where they get really they get a little bit hot about certain topics, and they like to bring up debatable or high debate topics, sometimes get a little bit negative. And that's just not my style. So that's one of the things I love most about sharing on Instagram is I feel that it's something that we can always lift other people up and encourage other people. I don't like getting into any of the controversial topics necessarily on social media, because I feel like it's not something you'll really ever win with. So that's something I really do appreciate about sharing posts on Instagram in the fitness industry. Let's see. So social media, of course, provides a cost-effective way to reach a broad audience. And I will say to that, I know, again, a lot of people will complain about, like I just got done complaining about the algorithm, right? How it's making it really hard for non-followers to see the content that I'm sharing. But when it comes right down to it, it's a free platform that I can create what I want, share what I want, and it's basically advertising. And again, we'll talk about that in a little bit better detail, but it's a very cost-effective way. Now, of course, there are things that you can add on and pay for when it comes to even just Instagram in and of itself. But anyone that's just starting out can start for free, start advertising their business for free on Instagram, and that's pretty awesome right there. And then, of course, it does allow for direct interaction with potential and current clients. And that's, again, something we'll talk about in the next few minutes. All right, let's go to the next slide. All right, so I already shared with you really briefly kind of where I came from and why I started sharing on Instagram. Like I said, the one reel that I shared about 2 years ago, I think I was probably at maybe 3,000 followers if I'm lucky. I don't know. And then it just shot up from there overnight and continued to grow. So as we get into the content creation, as I just mentioned, posting content is a form of advertising. That's the way I look at it. I have had to draw the line between realizing, okay, what I spend a lot of time doing, whether it's doing research on a new topic, or if it's just creating a new workout and filming it and editing it and preparing it to get posted. I have to look at that as that's not necessarily the job. That's the advertising. That's not my business. Well, I should say it is a part of my business, but it's been a challenge to try and draw the line and realize, like, okay, the time that I'm putting in to creating ads, so to speak, for my business, that is separate than what I need to give, the time that I need to give to my current paying clients. And so it can be a lot if it's not something that you're used to, or if it's something that you're considering, posting more regularly. It does take some definite organization and some planning ahead. But it's definitely, again, like I said, it's a free way of advertising your business and sharing what you have to offer. So as we go into algorithm changes, again, I don't spend a ton of time studying the analytics with each post for sure. I kind of have a rule for myself that I will take the time that I need to prepare a post and share it. And I love to go back and forth with other people within my niche and respond to other people that are commenting on my posts. But I have a rule for myself that the next day I might glance to see how things did and respond to other comments. But I try not to spend a lot of time focusing on the numbers. I just feel like it's kind of a waste of time, honestly, if I'm constantly looking at, okay, I do have a really good friend who is in the same niche, the home workout niche. We chat back and forth quite a bit, and she spends a lot of time looking at the analytics to the point that she'll narrow it down to, okay, what was I wearing and where was I filming from? And she focuses on how a post does. She takes the focus of how a post does and kind of has a spreadsheet, even to the point that, hey, this posted really well. And I think it's because, I wore my hair like this or whatever. I'm definitely not to that point. There's nothing wrong with it. But again, I like to put my time towards just creating the next thing. So as far as that side of analytics goes, I don't do a ton I don't spend a lot of time focusing on that. Yeah, we can go to the next slide. All right, so collaborations. I know for a while when I very first started, I had heard that. I listened, I'm sure some of you have listened to Brock Johnson. And again, about 2.5 years ago, I was listening to some of Brock and Chalene Johnson, mother-son duo, and they do a lot of podcasts together. And I had always enjoyed Chalene Johnson, so I liked listening to her podcast, and occasionally I would listen to her sons. And it was a lot on Instagram growth. And I mean, they still have a great business on social media growth. But I was listening to a lot of his podcasts at the time, and he talked a bit about how, hey guys, collaborations is where it's at right now. Collaborating with other people in your same niche, that's how you're going to get more views and be more visible. So at the time, I had a few friends that I taught classes with, and, we kind of played around with some different ideas and we'd film things together, but neither one of us really had big followings. And so I don't know how wide our reach was at the time. But it was fun. It definitely adds some variety to your page when you're able to collaborate with other people. But I didn't find personally it helped my account grow by a ton, but more than that, it didn't necessarily help my business grow. And so that is, and you'll probably hear me say that quite a bit over this discussion, that you do want to take, and this is why, again, I don't spend a ton of time looking at the analytics, because I need to focus more on nurturing those potential clients or even my current clients, and not spend a ton of time focusing on, oh, I've got to grow, I've got to grow, I've got to grow. And that was kind of a light bulb moment for me when I realized, oh, okay, now growing quickly can bring about a lot of clients quite quickly. But even if you're growing slowly, you can still bring in a lot of clients that are excited about what you have to offer and that are happy to stay as long as you nurture them in the right direction. So again, collaborations can be a fun way, I think, to mix up your page a little bit, out of variety. I just posted something today with a friend of mine that I filmed over a year ago. It was a repost. When she came down to visit, we filmed something. And again, I posted it about a year ago and just reposted it today. But again, for me, it was just more about, it adds some variety to my page. Anyone just looking at my page for the first time can see, oh, okay, she does this and she does a little of this. It's all within my home workout niche, but there's a little bit of variety to keep it fun and kind of keep it fresh. So again, that collaborations, if they work out, great. But again, you would want to make sure that the person you choose to collaborate is definitely in line with your same goals, as far as what you're sharing, of course, and then even your business goals. I've had a few, what's the word? I've had a few opportunities, if you will, come up that I've turned down just because I felt like that wasn't the right fit, that anyone that would potentially want to join my business or join my program might see that and be a little confused. So I don't have a problem with turning down those opportunities in a nice way, because I do want to be pretty careful about what I share. So going into the new features, so I know IGTV, I don't know how much that is even a thing anymore. Honestly, I've never done IGTV. I don't spend really much time at all doing any of the live things. It's not to say that I won't ever in the future. Um, I don't know how many of you are able to access Instagram, the broadcast feature. I've talked with someone that kind of helped me put together a guide that I released recently who just started doing a lot with his broadcast feature. And he said it's working pretty well, but I don't have that that feature available. I don't know if it's a per area kind of thing that it's released to different areas at different times, but that's not an option for me right now. So of course, the things that I focus on most are my consistent posting and then stories. So I'll talk with you a little bit about that as we get a little bit further into the discussion. Okay. So building a community around my content and sharing more about my everyday life. That is, I think, the key to making sales. So it's a great thing, as I mentioned before, to grow quickly or even not quickly, but to see some steady growth. But people are going to buy or join your program based, I believe, on your stories. When they really get to know you, that is when they feel like they can trust you and they know a little bit more about you, and that it's something that they want to continue to learn more from you. So I have found that sharing fairly regular content, posts and reels on a fairly regular basis through the week is a great way, hopefully, to catch people's attention. But again, they are going to buy from you when they can trust you and get to know you through your stories. Now, some people are really good and really natural about sharing more about who they are through their posts. I probably don't do the best job of that. I probably tend to be a little bit more on I like things to look clean and professional, and I don't show a lot of like bloopers or anything like that on my actual posts that are going to stay on my page. But I do like sharing those little outtakes, those silly little moments that happen through the day, um, a lot of things with my family through my stories. Again, I apologize. My allergies have been really bad, so I'll keep drinking my water over here. And again, I will go so far as to say that when it comes to stories, less is probably more. When I first started a couple of years ago, I would look at these other influencers that I had followed, and a lot of them were posting like every hour. I mean, you'd look at their stories and it was dot, 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 dot. And I would watch a few and then kind of get tired and move on. But at the same time, I thought, well, I guess that's what you're supposed to do when you're trying to grow your following and when you're trying to grow a business. You should probably keep posting on your stories. But not until I got my first deal, if you will, paid for my stories, did I realize that I was doing myself a disservice by posting so regularly on my stories. And I'll explain that. So a company had paid me to advertise some of their food, and I am a nutrition coach. And so I felt like it aligned with my brand really quite well. And when they asked for the numbers, at the time, I think I probably had, I don't know, 150,000 followers, something like that. And I was excited to get paid to share some things on my stories. And then when they asked me for the analytics, so I don't even know what you're really talking. I didn't even really know that you could look to see. I mean, this is how new I was to Instagram. I didn't even know that you could even look to see how many views you got per story. So when I had to give them the screenshot, I think they were a little underwhelmed that my story views, for considering that I had a pretty large audience at the time, that my story views were so low. And so from that point, I started talking with other people within my same niche, and they were also adding a lot to their stories. But I think, again, that the algorithm was going through a shift. At the time, again, this was a couple years ago, Shalene and Brock were saying, hey, if you post every hour on your stories, then it keeps pushing your stories to the front and you'll get your stuff seen. Well, I don't know if it's just my account or it's just, again, the way that Instagram has shifted, but things seem to be a little bit different now, to the point that I think 2 to 3 stories for me a day is great. Much more than that. And I do think people lose interest. Again, that's not for everybody, but that's what I have found works for me. I know personally, when I go to look at other people's stories, if I see more than, 3 or 4 dots going across on their stories, I'm out. I love what they have to say, but let's be honest, nobody cares that much, not usually. So I'm pretty careful about what I offer on my stories or what I share on my stories. I know, again, a lot of people love to do, this is me getting ready for the day, and this is what I had for breakfast, and this is me standing in line running my errands and things that I might share one of those a day. But much more than that, I think it gets a little bit overwhelming, and people honestly don't care that much. So it is important to have some good views. Whether you're doing advertising and you've got a company that wants to pay you, they're going to want to see your analytics, and they're going to want to see that you've got good views. And I think that for most people, if you've got more than a few stories, it just brings your views down. So yeah, let's go ahead and move on. And that's kind of leading into the next slide. That was definitely something I did not pay attention to. I didn't really understand the data behind stories and how that could have at the time probably helped me either grow a little bit better. At that point, when I was still new to Instagram, I, of course, didn't have a business yet. But I was doing a few little deals for companies asking me to advertise, and I probably could have gotten away with asking to be paid a little bit more had I had better views on those stories. And again, I kind of got into that a little bit early on. Along with the stories too, and I will spend a good amount of time talking about this because as I mentioned before, I really do think that's where people will buy into your program, is when they get to know you. So stories are a big deal. I don't appreciate listening to long drawn out speeches, even though you can speak for quite a while and it's just one story. It's a long time ago, I think it used to cut you off. But now you can go on for a long time on those stories. But I think for the most part, people are on Instagram for just quick little sound bites. They just want to hear a little bit about what you have to say. But much more than, 20, 30 seconds for me seems to be, if I do look at the analytics now, I can see, oh, people skipped to the next one. They kind of got tired of what I had to say. So when I'm talking, I keep it really pretty short. Either that or now it does seem to be that as much as people do want to hear you talk at different times or about different things, it seems that a picture, even if it's got a little caption in your story, seems to do a little bit better. Now, I think it comes down to just mixing up the styles. If you're always just doing a picture with a caption, yeah, people might get bored of that. But I do think that some people, especially those that maybe don't speak your same language as their first language, maybe they just want to see the caption and rather than try and listen and try and understand what you're saying. So again, too much talking, too many stories, that can definitely be detrimental. And then the next topic, of course, the next bullet point there is vanity versus value. And again, this is my own personal opinion, take it how you will. But you can instantly sense, at least I feel like I can, when someone is sharing based on, oh, I look really good in this picture, or, oh, this makes me look really cute, versus is it really offering someone value? And I'm not saying that we don't want to put our best foot forward. And I'm not saying that we should only post horrible looking pictures of us or only post when we first wake up in the morning and don't look put together. I'm not saying that. We all want to put our best foot forward. But again, I think the question to ask is, am I really offering something that people will look at? Is this valuable to them or entertaining to them? Or is it just because I think I look cute? Or is it just because my kid looks cute? So I think that's kind of the bottom line, whether it's a story or a post in general. Is it for you? And is it because you know that there's a hot guy that follows you that will probably see this? Then you're posting maybe for the wrong reason, or maybe not. Maybe I shouldn't even say the wrong reason, but you may not see your account or your business grow if you're posting for vanity over value. All right, so moving on, and I will get back into stories just a little bit because there's more I want to talk about when it comes to automation. But the last part of this slide, of course, posting and engagement timing. Now, that's a tricky one, and that's kind of a hot topic. If you follow any other social media experts, they will probably tell you that there's no perfect time to post. And that's probably true. I will say that when I first started this whole journey, I was trying to figure out, okay, what is algorithm, or not the algorithm, but what is Instagram telling me is the best time to post on the best day? And I was trying to figure out those, and I think I was even Googling it, like I don't really know the best time to post. But I quickly learned the best time to post was the time that I knew other people in my niche were going to be on Instagram. Because even if I don't get a lot of comments from new followers or old followers alike, even if they don't feel like making comments, I know the other home fitness people in my niche are on at this time of the day and they're going to comment on my post. And I, in return, am going to comment on theirs. So I have just found that there is a specific time of the morning that works really great for me. Yes, it's super early, but I do live in Arizona and most of the world has been awake for quite a while by the time I get up early to make my post. So again, I don't know that there's any magic time. So if you follow anybody that says, hey, post at 10 o'clock on Sundays or, 11 o'clock on Fridays, it just really kind of comes down to what can you be consistent with and what will bring you about the most engagement. And I will say the last thing I'll say about it is you do want that to be pretty, not just consistent posting through the week, but consistent with your time. I have heard this and I don't know for sure, but that the algorithm does reward you if you are on or right around the same time to post and engage with other people in the day. So if you're doing one post at 7 a.m. on a Monday, and then you're not on again until Wednesday at 11, and then again Friday at 2 in the afternoon, the algorithm may not reward you, from what I understand. I don't know. I don't have any proof to show for that, but that's the understanding that I've had, and the success I have found is that posting early in the morning, again, this is for my niche, at the same time, most days of the week seems to work really pretty well. All right. So the power of hashtags, I don't know that hashtags are doing many of us any good anymore. I don't think it really necessarily hurts. Again, the friend that I mentioned earlier that does a lot of looking into the analytics has determined that she feels that hashtags actually hurt her posts. I don't know exactly why. But from what I have been told in working with a business coach is just don't waste your time on them. So again, that's something that I think has changed. I don't personally use hashtags, but that's not to say that they won't work for other people. So again, I just don't, if there's something that you feel like you need to cut out, not spend a lot of time on so that you can quickly post and engage and move on with your day, hashtags may not be the thing to worry too much about. Okay. So quality over quantity. Now that's a tough one because there are plenty of creators that will say, just post it. Don't overthink it. Just post it. Just post it and just be consistent and just keep posting. Whereas other people will say, well, it's got to be high quality. Again, I just got done mentioning that it's got to have value. Or it's not really worth posting. So again, that's kind of a tough one to answer. I have plenty of posts out there that probably don't offer quite as much value, but sometimes I just needed something to post if it had been a couple of days and I just needed something to post. So I do think that just having more quantity and posting regularly is probably more important than the utmost quality. And part of the reason for that is you just never know when a post is going to do really, really well. And that's one thing that I've noticed over the years of doing this is that, again, going back to that first reel that I had that went viral, never in my wildest dreams would I have ever thought that that kind of post would have been the thing that actually got me growing on Instagram. And so sometimes, you just got to post it. You don't know what's going to happen. And along with that, I will add, sometimes we'll go back and look at a post that we shared, whether it was a day ago or that day, and think, oh, it's doing horrible. I'm just going to pull it down. My recommendation is to not pull it down because you never know when it might turn around and just overnight pick up. I've seen that happen to a few of my posts where I've shared it on a Friday And all of a sudden I woke up and, I didn't do that well on Friday, but then I woke up on Sunday morning and looked at it, and all of a sudden, oh, hey, it went viral. Great. So I'm glad I didn't pull it down. So last part of this slide, and then I'll open it up to some questions before moving on to the next one. Okay, so again, kind of what I mentioned before, most Instagram creators agree that consistency is, same time each day is valuable in terms of engagement. And again, going back to just finding people that are in your niche, whether you start commenting on their posts, and then sometimes I have found that sending them a DM, someone in your same niche, to say, hey, I love your content. I love what you have to offer. Just kind of introducing yourself to people in your niche is a great way to make those connections. And it's kind of a, if I scratch your back, you'll scratch mine too kind of situation, where they will help you with your engagement if you continue to help with theirs. Now, along those lines, I know that there have been things in the past that the algorithm, again, frowned upon. I think there were people that were creating these little groups where they would kind of make the same comment on everybody's posts. And I think the algorithm wised up to that. So on that same note, I would just say, don't just leave, emojis. I mean, occasionally we do that, right? But make genuine comments on other people's, lift other people up, and they'll want to help you out too. So leave genuine, well thought out comments. Take the time to look through other people's carousels and their reels, and see what they have to offer, and offer genuine compliments and good feedback. And I think that will in turn help your account to grow as well. All right, so let's just pause for just a moment here. And if you guys have anything that you want to type in the chat, if I've skipped over anything too quickly, then just let me know, and we can address that now. And if you want to save your questions for the end, that's fine as well. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Okay, so again, this is a tough one because what has worked for me may not work for you. And for sure, I have taken a look at other people's accounts to see, like, okay, let's see what's doing well for, again, like someone like Shalene, let's see what's doing well for her. And if I tried anything, similar, or shared a similar message, it may have tanked. So you can see just by looking, if you can see this graphic, just those 3 reels right there, what a wide berth, right? In the amount of views. I had one where I talked about comparing yourself being the thief of joy, and just how, well, it was kind of more of a funny, a humorous kind of take, or I should say relatable. I think people related to that one really well. And that got 1.3 million views. The very next reel that I shared only got 77,000 views. And then something, the 3 simple tips that you see, that's probably a little bit more average for the types of reels. I'm going to read this question really quick. All right. So can I integrate with ClickFunnels? I guess I would have to, I don't really know much about ClickFunnels, to be honest. So if anyone else wants to chime in and share their thoughts on that, I'm, again, probably not the person to ask on ClickFunnels. Unless I'm misunderstanding what a ClickFunnel is. I am going to talk a little bit about automation in a few minutes. But yeah, feel free to chime in, anyone, if you have any thoughts on ClickFunnels. Okay, so again, going back to relatable versus educational versus entertaining. So I like to try and offer a few different styles here and there. I do think that it keeps people interested and coming back for more. If you go from maybe one type of content is just purely educational, you're teaching them the proper way to do a deadlift, for example. And then maybe the next day you share something that's a little more humorous, something a little more relatable, and then maybe something that it just offers value, or a list of things that they can do. I just think that it's important to mix it up so that your page doesn't just become vanilla and blend into the background somewhere. Now, the other thing I will say about sharing educational posts or reels is that I have found the things that do seem to do well for my account and help me to grow on Instagram are the type of workouts where people can just swipe through and follow the workout as it goes along. But that's not necessarily the best thing for my business, because if they can look at everything on my page and try and make it, oh, well, that's going to be my workout today, then why would they want to join my business? So it is kind of a tough balance. And that's why at this point, I am using this time when, again, the algorithm does not seem to be on my side and I am not growing quite as quickly, to just really tap into more of the creative side of things and maybe share more reels and educational tips, as opposed to just, here's your workout, follow this one with me. Even though I know that does better as far as Instagram growth, again, I have to step back and say, but what's the best thing for my business? Because if people can just always click on my page and always follow the workout I shared that day, then why would they want to pay to join my program? But again, going back, just some captions that seem to work. You can see I have a lot of workouts just right there, and that is definitely the majority of my page. But again, you can see that one in the top corner, need a recharge. That was definitely a little bit more. This is why you're going to want to buy the guide that I have, that I'm about to offer. So I know that things that have worked for my audience, they like things that I'm pretty clear cut about, saying 3 simple tips to do this, or 5 great quad exercises, or as you can see, as you take a look at some of the things I've got on there. My particular audience, I am a grandma, and I do have, I think my niche is a little bit more of the midlife, people that are wanting to stay at home to do their workouts. And so I do tend to focus a little bit more on, low impact. You can see no jumping cardio, knee friendly legs and glutes. That tends to be something that I focus on, because I have looked enough at the analytics to know over the years that those things tend to do a little bit better. I've definitely experimented with posts more about HIIT, and even just the wording HIIT sometimes I think scares people off. Even though I might do it and I might even offer it on my program, I have the opportunity to teach them a little bit more clearly in my program, whereas a post, you only have a few seconds to capture their attention. So I do try to be a little bit more careful on the wording in my captions and even the titles of my posts. And again, just going back to, I'll continue to share things, especially when it comes to reels. I have a lot of reels that tank really hard, and it's kind of frustrating when you see that, that's something that you put a lot of time into. I'm sure all of you can relate, when you put a lot of time into something and then it doesn't do well. But one thing that I have found, when I do share a little more education, even though I might not get great engagement, I may not get great views, I almost always make more sales on those type of reels and that type of content. So it's just something to keep in mind. And the last thing I'll say about this particular part is, again, kind of what I was describing earlier, that we do have to look at the time that we're spending creating content is not necessarily the job. It is part of it, excuse me, but it's not serving your paying clients. But it is how you will build up your clientele. So I have just learned to try to be a little bit more organized about scheduling the time to do research and scheduling the time to post, or excuse me, to film content. But that if I run out of time and it's a check-in day for my clients come first. So that's definitely something that I've had to learn. Are there any questions about this particular part? Are we ready to move on? Okay, I already talked a little bit about stories, so I won't spend a lot of time on this particular slide, but this was just a little story that I shared yesterday. Again, I had posted a banded, joint friendly leg workout yesterday. And as part of my story, I didn't share the workout again in my story because hopefully they've already seen it by that point. But I did share just a little outtake of my little granddaughter kind of coming in and helping me out. Because again, that's something that, with my niche being a little bit more midlife, women, hopefully they can relate to that and appreciate seeing that side of me. So again, it's kind of going back to, is it vanity or is it value? Maybe it's a little vanity because I think my granddaughter, even though she just had woken up in this this particular picture, she's pretty cute. So anyway, a little bit of vanity, I suppose, but something that really helps for me, it's a big deal actually for my personal business, is sharing before and afters. Those are really tough for me to get. I have a lot of clients that have made great progress, but they really do not like to share, or they don't want me to share. Even if I don't put their face on there, they really are uncomfortable. And I certainly don't want to push that. So I'm pretty careful. I always ask for permission. But those before and after pictures definitely make a big difference when it comes to making sales and growing my clientele. I touched on this just a little bit earlier, but I am very particular about what I will share both on my posts and my stories. Again, early on, I was willing to share everything that anybody sent to me. I was posting a lot of reels at the beginning, and I would reshare those on my stories. And I soon learned, like, people don't really want to see your same reel posted again on your stories. So again, that's something that I've learned. I've learned to share a little bit less, and definitely links will bring down, like, this is hands down, there is data to prove this. Links will bring down your views. So if you're hoping to, if you're in a collaboration with a company and they're paying you to do something, be very selective about how many of those that you'll share. Again, some accounts might do really well to share, 10 different stories about 10 different brands and put their links on there. But it would be interesting to see what would happen if they took out the links and did something different, how their engagement might increase on those stories. And that's going to kind of bring me on to the automations. I am a big fan of ManyChat. I know not everybody is, and maybe some of you have played around with it a little bit and it hasn't worked for you. When I referred earlier to the coach that I used to help me in creating the recent guide that I just released, he worked with me a lot on ManyChat and how to use it. And so I highly recommend it. If it's something you're uncomfortable with, look into hiring a coach that can help you work through those automations and create conversations in your DMs. It can help increase engagement both in your posts as well as your DMs. And you can really build up your email list from those automations. But the best thing, and this is the last thing I'll say about it when it comes to stories, is now instead of offering a link, let's say I'm doing an ad for Clean Simple Eats protein. I really like their stuff. Well, I'm careful about not sharing too much on Clean Simple Eats because, one, I do have my own business, and the more I share on other people's businesses, the less people are going to want to listen and hear about mine. That's the way I see it. And for the amount of money that I might make off of a sale for Clean and Simple Eats, to me, it's not quite worth it. Now, there are plenty of people that will say, oh, but I want to know what you're eating, what you're drinking, whatever. That's fine. And that's why occasionally I'll put it on there. And I really do like to support those companies. So I do occasionally throw in a picture or two or a little video or two, especially if they're offering a sale. And I think it's something that my audience will really benefit from. But instead of offering a link on that particular brand, instead I'll encourage a conversation. I might say on that story, comment eats to learn more about what, this particular protein. Or the other day I did a story for Kiava Swim or Kiava Activewear. And I just put on there, comment swim, to learn a little bit more and to use my discount. So at that point, I'm not leaving a link anymore. I've just told them to comment with a word, and I've set up an automation so that when they comment that word, they are getting the link. Does that make sense? So that won't bring my story views down. So again, this particular ad, if you want to call it an ad, on the swimwear did actually really quite well because enough people were interested that they commented the word swim, and it sent them the automation and they were able to go through and purchase from there. So I have found that works better. Not everybody agrees with that. I have a few friends that have said, nope, I think that, putting the link on there is quicker and easier for people. They don't want to go into their DMs to learn more about, this swimwear, for example. So again, you just have to play around with what works for you. But I have personally found I like to use ManyChat. So let's go on to the next one, and then we'll start to wrap it up. Okay, so again, I've already kind of talked about some of the do's. If you want to go back and look through this again on your own time, you can do that. The last thing I didn't really talk about much was using ChatGPT. I don't use it a lot, but I have found that if you're very specific with ChatGPT and you'll go in there, if I'm coming up with a reel, for example, I might say, very specifically, please give advice to, this audience. Maybe your niche is postpartum, women that have just had babies, and you might say to ChatGPT a very specific, please help me give advice to women that have just had babies that are doing this and this and this, and it will give you the type of wording that seems to uh, seems to reach that group of people a little bit better. You can be very specific and ask ChatGPT to help you determine the needs and again, just the kind of wording that works best when you're trying to come up with a reel. You can even say things like, please describe this in a fun and friendly way, and then it doesn't sound so much like a robot. So I've personally used ChatGPT quite a bit when it comes to creating reels, and it's been very helpful. And then again, stories, polls, automations are all really, really helpful. Finally, these again are on my own opinion. I don't like to spend a ton of time worrying about having the perfect font. Now, if you were to glance at my page, some people might say, oh, that looks pretty, well put together. At the beginning, I did spend a lot of time trying to figure out, okay, the right font and getting the right shot. But now it's just kind of down to a science, and I've kind of created templates for myself that I'm able to just put together those posts pretty quickly. And I do a fair amount of reposting. No one is going to look past your first, let's say 30, 40 posts to see that, oh, she shared that a year ago. I just got done saying how today I shared a post that I shared a year ago. And I will sometimes even only wait 3 months in between sharing a particular post that did really well for me 3 months ago. So no one cares. Very few people remember if you're reposting. So let that help you too. If you're having a busy day with clients and you need to post the next day, use an old post. It's totally fine. I mentioned earlier, not giving away the whole loaf of bread, so to speak. So don't give away everything in a post, in a caption. Make people want to keep coming back for more. And then I mentioned earlier not to delete those posts that you never know could end up doing really well and maybe even going viral. So don't delete anything, of course, unless there's a good reason for it. But for the most part, even those posts that don't really seem to do well, just leave them up, let them grow. And then is there anything else? Was there another slide? Yep. Oh, and then finally, I'll just kind of talk a little bit. We can go to the next one. I just talked about this one a little bit, the age and gender. I'll start to wrap things up here by just chatting a little bit about genuine interactions. Again, I think your DMs is where you're going to get most of your clients. I don't think I've gotten many clients off of people that have just made comments on my posts, but I have picked up clients from those that interact and maybe see a little bit of my home life and my stories, and those that I've taken the time to comment. I will say though, that with using ManyChat, and especially if you find that your account starts to grow pretty quickly, it can be really challenging to keep up with DMs. And I think people are probably smart enough to know now that a lot of us are using ManyChat and automations to help respond. But usually, and this is the last thing I'll say about it, is when it comes to ManyChat, a lot of times I will finish that automation with a line that says, do you have any questions for me? And then I can go in, and if people do have questions, I can respond. Even though the conversation began with an automation, I can end it with a genuine interaction or a response to their questions. So I have found that that's been really helpful. But again, that I think people do like to see the personal side of you when it comes to deciding if they want to buy into your business. Okay, so let's see what else. What's next? Okay, so I just took a pic or left a couple pictures of some of my clients. These are a couple ladies that have done really well with my program, and when I do have weekly check-ins as part of my the nutrition side of the business. And so anytime they leave I always leave a spot at the end I always like to answer their questions, update their nutrition plan, of course, encourage them, or sometimes point out what they could improve upon. But I do like to leave a place where they can, share their wins for their week. And a lot of times I'll take those lines, like you can see right here, some of the things that they say, and I have a whole Google Doc of some of the things that people have shared that have made a big difference for them. And I have a whole list of quotes and lines that I can use in my stories. But again, I think even if you've got clients that are maybe a little bit on the grumpy side, because I think we all experience that. Sometimes, especially with fitness or nutrition, it can be really tough. They can get really frustrated at times, and it's just important to keep. I do all of my interactions through the chat on FitBudd, by the way. I know some coaches will do it all via email, but I like to be able to keep track of all of our conversations through a chat rather than trying to weed through my emails. Okay, so a couple, looks like a question that just came up. Do you follow your followers back? I don't. I don't follow my followers back. I don't think it's important. That might get a little overwhelming. It depends on what you use your feed for. I will say I think I did it first, but for me, I have a personal account, and so I have my family account, my personal account, and I like to see what's going on with my friends on there. But when it comes to the business account, I pretty much just keep it within my niche. So that's a good question, though. Again, I just went over this techniques that work for me. I like to use the chat box and FitBudd over email as far as updates to their plan, updates to their nutrition. The weekly newsletter, that's something I send out just once a week to all. I've started to build up an email list, again, using ManyChat to help me with that. And then the weekly newsletter, I just send out just to my clients only. But occasionally, like maybe once every 6 weeks or so, I'll send out a big email to everybody on my email list, especially if I know I have something that I'm getting ready to launch that I want them to know about. Regular check-ins, again, that's something that I just feel like for paying clients, no matter what they're paying, there's probably a few out there that are paying a higher premium. They deserve to have some consistent feedback. And so for me, what's worked with my business is I just have 2 days a week that they can check in, that they know that they'll be able to receive a response within 24 hours. And those one-on-one clients that I have get top priority. So as far as response time goes. Moving on to another question. It looks like AI videos would work for those not used to posting in the beginning. That's a really good question. And this is the one thing I have been learning. Again, just kind of hearing from different social media experts is they are saying that that's part of the reason why the algorithm has started to make a shift, is that a lot of people are using AI or taking other people's videos and trying to make them their own. And so the algorithm, this is again just something that I've heard, tends to be favoring those posts that don't look really well put together. When the algorithm can sense that, oh, okay, they just filmed this on their own with their camera, it might be a little grainy, the font might not look perfectly centered, that the algorithm is actually favoring those because they're trying to shy away, or they're trying to kind of combat that AI thing. So I would be a little bit careful about that. I suppose in some circumstances, AI might really help and work. But I think the more natural it looks and the more homegrown, so to speak, it looks, from what I understand, those posts seem to be doing better, a little bit better. Using the group chat feature, I started with that. But I don't know, maybe that's a me thing. I didn't find that worked quite as well. Because I did go through and find that some people that I included in that group chat didn't quite get it. And again, that could be because of me, because I have a few different fitness, or a few different tiers in my program itself. So I have some that are just nutrition clients. I have some that are just workout clients. And so the group chat feature didn't work quite as well for me. But I do have my weekly newsletter, again, that all my clients get that. And then I also have a Facebook group that I've opened up so that my clients all feel like they have a place that they can come on and ask questions and hear back from other other clients too. I'm not a big Facebook person, but I have found that that's been pretty helpful for a lot of people. So yeah, but if anyone else out here uses the group chat and wants to talk about that and share a little bit about that, that would probably help a lot of you guys. The beginning of the call. Oh, how many clients do I have in FitBudd? I didn't talk about that. Gosh, I haven't even checked lately. It's not a crazy amount. But again, I have a higher rate because I do have a lot of one-on-one clients. So I think I'm in the 200 range right now, but again, a lot of, and then I have another range of a little bit smaller group of people that just do my one-on-one. Yeah. So that is something that I have found is that to get someone to join a subscription is a lot of work. It's a lot of nurturing. It's a big deal when you can get even one person to convert to a subscription client. That's a pretty big deal, and that'll continue to fluctuate and ebb and flow. And so that's why I think that nurturing them is so important. Yeah.
Angie, before we jump into any more questions, let me quickly introduce FitBudd to those who might have joined late and don't have access to the platform yet. In summary, FitBudd helps you grow your fitness business with the power of your own branded app. Our platform is the only tool you will ever need to seamlessly run your fitness business and build a robust digital brand. And for those who might be interested in experiencing FitBudd firsthand, we offer a 30-day free trial. To explore more, you can schedule a demo with our team using the link that we provide in the chat. Over to you, Angie. We have one question.
Yeah, so this last slide, I'll kind of wrap it up here, and then yeah, we'll chat about those last few questions coming in. So again, I think something that probably hurts a lot of accounts is just inconsistent posting. I know it's easy. It can be a little bit easy to get burned out. And so it's probably a wise idea from the beginning to determine like what's too much for you. And even if it is just once or twice a week to start, I would continue to post on your stories pretty consistently, even if you feel like you can't take the time to put together a full post several times a week. I think keeping people updated and staying present in your stories is really helpful. But then, as I mentioned, vanity over value. And then, of course, just looking at your workday and scheduling a certain time or a certain amount of time during that day that you will put into posting, or even just doing research on your next post is really helpful. So again, it's just like everything else, it comes down to organization, right? And then, of course, actively listening and responding to your audience. That's not to say you have to respond to every single DM that comes through. And it's also not to say that you'll need to give everything away. You'll get plenty of people that will text you or DM you and say, hey, can you please tell me exactly what I need to do? I'm, 70 years old and I've got this issue and this issue. Can you please give me a workout for this or that? And at that point, I'll say, oh, hey, those are great questions. And I might chat with them a little bit back and forth, but hopefully, I'll always end with hey, I'd love to give you a free week trial to my program so that you can, see for yourself that there's a lot you can still do with those problems or whatever, you kind of tie it all in. It's tough I'm not a big salesperson, but when it comes down to it, you can get definitely burned out by the amount of messages that people will send you that are wanting things for free. So, let's see. Yeah. All right. So let's see. Oh, the posting schedules. Okay. And by the way, there will be, this has been recorded and it will be reposted, or I believe sent to your email. Is that right?
Email.
Yeah. So you can, if you had to chime in late or if you had to leave early, then you'll have the full discussion. Okay, so the posting schedules, yeah. Let's see. Oh, okay, that's a really good question. So this posting schedules question says, I hear it discussed a lot. For example, Mondays workout tips, Tuesdays nutrition, Wednesdays motivation. staying consistent with what content you post when important, or is the overall consistency more important? I think overall consistency is more important. Again, it kind of goes back to giving away the whole loaf of bread for free. I was just chatting with someone yesterday that works for a fitness influencer, and she said, you know, Fridays we do this every single Friday. Monday, I share something on this every single Monday. But I personally think that if you're constantly, it might be a good way to grow. It might be a great way to start, and you can experiment it. But with me at this point, if I were to offer every Monday, we're going to be talking about nutrition, or every Tuesday, we're going to be talking about upper body, then again, why would people want to join my program if they can just log into Instagram? And today I know Angie's going to post a lower body workout on her page. So I'm going to focus on that. So that may not be exactly what you're asking, but that does bring up a good point, that I try to mix it up enough so that people don't just come onto my page just for their daily workout, or they don't come onto my stories just for free recipes. I try and keep it enough variety to first add variety, and also so that I don't feel like I'm just giving away all the things that I offer in my program for free, because I will say that I know that, you know, my clients still follow me on Instagram, and I don't want them to have to get on there and see that, oh, she just shared this full, you know, series of recipes that I'm having to pay for, that I'm having to pay to be in her program, and she's giving it all away for free. So that's, again, something that I try to be kind of careful about too. Hopefully that answered that question. Are there any more questions that you guys can think of right now that you want to chat about? Yeah, that's a tough one. How to get clients to engage more. So paying clients, oh, it's a tough one. And I will say, I'm going to go back to Instagram and talking about engagement on Instagram. I don't know if you're referring to actual clients or just followers on Instagram, but I'll chat really quickly about both. I don't get a lot of client engagement on my posts. Again, I was sharing earlier how the most engagement I get are from other people within my niche, and some of the relationships that I've formed with these other stay-at-home workout, whether it's male, female, it's that's been the most engagement for sure. So yeah, a lot of people I've had a lot of clients flat out tell me, I love your program and I love what you have to offer on Instagram, and I love, you know, being a part of your program. I love being one of your clients, but I don't like to comment, whether it's on the Facebook forum or whether it's on Instagram, or even the chat box. I'll give people ideas, or, you know, send them updates to their plan through the chat box, and there's plenty of people that don't respond, and that's okay. But as far as engagement, that really is a tough one. I do know too, going back to Instagram, when I share a reel, specifically reels on nutrition, I get very little engagement, very, very little, even though that's a big part of my business. There have been plenty of people that have flat out told me, I don't want to discuss nutrition on social media. They feel like that's enough of a hot topic, or a debatable kind of topic, controversial type of topic, that there are a lot of people that just flat out don't want to engage. So when I do try to get people to engage more on posts, I like to keep it very neutral, something that people would feel very comfortable talking about. Whether it's, hey, do you like to work outside or inside? When the weather is good, do you work outdoors or indoors? That's an easy one that people can answer, and it's not controversial. And sometimes I will even say things like, all right, what is your favorite A, B, C, or D? So that people don't have to type out a full word. There are a lot of people that are like, I want to engage, but I don't want to spend a lot of time typing them on my phone. I get that. So make it as easy as possible for people to respond and engage. Again, whether it's just a A, B, C, D, or this or that, that seems to be one of the best ways for people to engage. And then you'll get plenty of people that don't mind typing a little bit more and getting a little bit deeper into the conversation. So that's a tough one though. I'm always looking for ways to get clients to engage more. I have never done, okay, what's the most effective way to start? Again, just with Instagram specifically, like I said, my very first reel that did well was a total fluke. I didn't expect for it to do well. But I think immediately the next day I was like, hey, I'm going to film something again, and I'm just going to keep doing that over and over again. Now, I didn't do the same exact workout, of course. I played around with upper body, lower body, core, cardio, and then like nutrition tips. And I just kind of kept playing around with it, but I was just consistent. I think like 5 days a week for that first few months. Like, let's just keep posting, see what does well and what doesn't. And I quickly learned, like, okay, my audience definitely prefers these type of posts. And so I will do, for example, right now, my audience tends to like a lot of like full body things. And so I'll do maybe a couple of full body posts within a 10-day period, and maybe a little bit less of the things that I know don't do really well. Another thing I will say about that too is I'm really careful to not do a post with anything that I wouldn't also feature in my program. For example, I don't do a lot of kettlebell workouts on Instagram. I love kettlebell workouts, but because I don't have a specific workout with a kettlebell in my program, because I know a lot of my clients don't have kettlebells, I try not to post about that on Instagram. Because you don't want to get the wrong kind of audience. If you aren't offering, let's say, TRX workouts on your paid programming, then I wouldn't post it on Instagram, because you might get a bunch of followers from that TRX post that you shared. And if you don't in turn have it in your program, then people get frustrated. So that's another thing I've definitely learned. So that's why my Instagram is probably pretty boring. There's a few body weight workouts and pretty much dumbbells, because that's what I offer in my home workout program here on FitBudd. Going on, is it a good idea to start a paid Facebook community? Again, I don't know anything about a paid Facebook community. I just have, or is that paid? Is that Facebook? I'm assuming, I guess we could be talking about FitBudd. I'm assuming you're referring to Facebook. I just started a small group on my own personal my own personal Facebook page. And I just call it the FitFix community. And I only let people that are paying clients in on that. I don't post on it a lot, maybe even just once a week. The hope there is that clients will interact with each other and post some of their, moments and wins. But yeah, so hopefully that helps. All right. I think that might be about
Yeah, I
it.
guess we've reached the end of the webinar. Thank you all for joining today's webinar. We appreciate your time and participation, and special thanks to Angie for her valuable insights.
It's fun. Thank you.
Have a great day.